Brett Young has brand new music, and we want to hear what his baby girl Presley thinks about it. We'll find out coming up. This episode of Connected with Kelly is sponsored by Pickers Vodka, proudly made in Nashville, Tennessee. So Pickers is a tribute to the musicians whose sounds fill the air in Music City. Pickers Vodka is distilled 11 times from non-GMO corn, and it's gluten-free. My new favorite is the Pickers Unplugged Vodka Soda. They're in cans. They are only 96 calories, 0 carbs, great flavors. You need to give them a try. Visit pickersvodka.com to find out more or to order online. Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of Connected with Kelly. Today we're chatting with Brett Young. He's had 7 consecutive gold and platinum #1 hits. And guess what? He has a brand new album out. It's called Weekends Look a Little Different These Days. And that pretty much sums up his life. Baby girl Presley is here, another baby girl on the way, and now he's got a brand new album. Lots happening in his life. So let's get connected with Brett Young. First of all, congrats on this new album. It's amazing. Was the majority of this already ready to go before the pandemic hit, or did some of it happen during?
That's a good question. I'd have to really think about it. My guess is, I know a few songs were definitely pre-pandemic, but as I think about it, it's 50-50. Lady was obviously the early on song that we had. We already had that song before the pandemic hit. Time for a new single. Turned out we were very grateful we had that song. We needed new music, but as I look back on the other 7 songs, I think it was about half and half that we had. Obviously, Weekends Look a Little Different These Days was an idea that I had during the pandemic, but I was on a writer's retreat when we wrote Dear Me and You Got Away With It. That was before the pandemic. We wrote those on the same trip. So yeah, it's a little bit of a split.
Dear Me was one of those songs. As soon as I heard it, I thought, gosh, that's the question that so many people ask in an interview, right? If you could say something to younger you, what would it be? And you took that, ran with it, and made it into a song. When did that come about? How did it come about? Give me some context about how that was written.
I just wanted to, I want to have options on this record that weren't just like, this is where I'm at right now. While not completely abandoning what I've tried to do from the beginning, which was be current and be honest and transparent and that whole thing. And so trying to find creative ways to tell old stories, but that are my stories and are still true. There was, and the idea was kind of that Brad Paisley letters to me, right?
Yeah.
If I could write a letter to me, like, and then I thought, well, what's my version of that? And his was always like, really to his youngest self, or much younger self. And mine was like, well, what if there was a version of that that pertained to your love story? So like the youngest version of you in this relationship, because me and Taylor, we have like a 13-year story. There were a lot of breaks and bumps and bruises along the road. And I wanted to tell the Brad Paisley story to the me from the beginning of my relationship to now. And it's basically like, dude, just if I could only show you how well it works out, you would just be able to settle down right now. And obviously, like, none of that is ever possible, but it's fun to sometimes kind of fantasize about what that conversation with yourself would be if you could have had it.
When you were writing it, you probably had to wade through some of those times when you guys were on a break and when you were like really probably devastated. And I mean, you've been very honest and talked about the fact that when you guys were on a break, you knew it was breaking your heart. Like that, what you knew you wanted to be with her, maybe she wasn't ready. So what was it like wading through those feelings on the other side?
Strangely kind of humorous. It's not like most trauma where like going back, like drudges all that up. Because in our situation, like things are very good now. It turned out well. So it's almost like, Brett, you were such a baby. Like, what were you so sad? Like, look how good it is, you know? So, like, it's an interesting place to be able to be because, like I said, if it was like about loss, um, you know, everybody's gone through hard times, and hindsight is always 2020, regardless. But with something that was final, then thinking back over it, it brings that same finality up. But for us, that was just that was a stage, that was a chapter, that was a season in our relationship. And so, since it's good now, it's almost like I laugh at myself for how difficult it was to deal with because, like, you know, had I known, I wouldn't have even worried about it. Probably, it still would have been sad to take breaks and stuff, but that's really all it was. So
Right.
it was strangely eye opening and a little bit humorous.
Lady is the current single, of course. Now, this is part of your story with your sweet baby girl, another one on the way. So, you are really outnumbered, friend. We were laughing. We said you need to get like a male dog or something just to have a little bit more testosterone in the house. But in looking at that and writing that, what was it like the first time you played it for Taylor? And what was it like when you heard the master the first time?
Well, so it's an interesting world that we're in now, songwriting in Nashville, because there's almost always somebody in the room that's also a producer, that's helping. That's one of the writers on the song. So you generally have a working demo. You know, I sang the demo on Lady right as we finished writing it, but then I lived 40 minutes outside of town. So he texted me the song way before I got home. So I didn't actually get to watch Taylor hear it for the first time because I couldn't wait. I just texted it to her. So the closest thing I got to seeing her face when she heard Lady for the first time was when she sent me like lines and lines and lines of crying emojis. So as much as I've said this before, but as much as you don't want to make your wife cry, I think if you have to, that's the right kind. So it's not lost on me that I got the brownie points with my wife already, and when Presley gets old enough to really understand it, I'll get a whole nother round of brownie points from her. So I think we nailed that one.
Looking forward to having baby number two. What did you learn when Presley was little that you're not going to sweat this time around?
Ooh, see, I don't think it works that way. All the advice I'm getting is that I need to forget everything that I think I've learned because the second baby is never anything like the first baby. So I'm trying to follow that advice and throw it all out the window and treat it like a first child, just so that like I don't catch myself getting overconfident and messing something up. So I think the only one thing that I would say that is a carryover is just that their babies are way more resilient than you would ever think that they are. And so it doesn't mean you don't have to be like careful and take care of your kids, but it just does mean that like babies bump their elbow and bump their knee, and those things are normal. And every kid in the world has done that. It's not the end of the world. You're not a bad parent. That's normal stuff. But everything else, I mean, other than changing diapers, I think we're going to try to start it over.
What is her favorite song? I mean, obviously, you're playing all this stuff for Taylor. What's Presley's favorite song?
Presley loves my music. I think it's because Taylor was coming to shows when she was pregnant. So and she also had those belly buds that are like sticky headphones. So like she played Presley my music while she was pregnant. So she definitely knows my music, but it's very clear that Lady, and she wouldn't be able to understand why, but it's very clear that Lady is her favorite. If we put that on, it's always like kind of calms her down, which is very sweet. I think it's one of those kind of supernatural things, but it's really cool.
Tell me about Not Yet.
Not yet. I think everybody has their version. I think, at least I hope everybody has had at least one of those moments in their lives so that they were like, I just wish this night never had to end, or this moment never had to end, or, and it was a little different approach for me because I like to kind of dig into wordplay and get a little heady, or take a different approach at already done concept. But this one just felt like the trickier you get, the more you alienate part of your audience, and so we went right down the middle with this. We tried to make it one of those songs where it was like, no matter what that experience was in your life, we're not telling too much of a story. It's just all concept here. This concept. What was that story for you? And so when they listen to it, it takes them back to that place. And the timing feels perfect for this one, to be at radio going into the summer, because it's really fun, up tempo, kind of lighthearted song. And so I think it's a sweet love song that also speaks to a concept I think will relate to a lot of people.
Okay, so I didn't realize the 90s influence. I did not realize the Boys to Men influence until you mentioned it earlier today, which Boys to Men was my first concert ever. So I am right there with you, near and dear to my heart. I'm listening to it and I could hear them singing this with you. Please tell me there's going to be a collaboration somewhere down the road.
That would be really fun. I won't. I'll never put that out of the realm of possibility. But we wanted to make sure that after taking a year off and actually getting the opportunity. I mean, not a lot of people got to get in the studio because the pandemic kind of closed everything down. So the fact that we were actually able to get new music ready, we wanted to make sure that we weren't like kind of clogging it up with a ton of features with this record. But if Boyz II Men wanted to sing on this after the fact, that would obviously my first concert as well was Boyz II Men and Montel Jordan. Those guys are great friends of mine. So if they wanted to do that, that we would not stop them. That's for sure.
That's amazing. Okay, last question. Your favorite country throwback song?
It will always be, I know this isn't a throwback for most people, but Southern California, I didn't find country till the early 90s. So it will always be the song that got me into country music, which was Tim McGraw, Don't Take the Girl.
Oh, such a great song.
It holds up. That storytelling is what country music is all about. It holds up. Every time I go back and listen to it, it feels like it could be recut or just put back out at country radio right now.
Love it so much. All right. Biggest lesson you learned from Presley, and then I'll let you go.
Perspective. The way that she sees the world is so beautiful, and it just reminds me that we've gotten a little jaded. So it just reminds me to remember to appreciate the little things that I've apparently gotten way too used to.
Thank you so much, friend. It's so good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Kelly.
Congratulations. All right. The name of the album is Weekends Look a Little Different These Days. Tell us what you think. What's your favorite Brett Young song? You can put it below. Lady is truly growing on me as one of my favorites. I would love it if you become one of our friends and subscribe to the channel. Also hit that bell, and that way you'll be notified whenever we have new episodes out, which happen each and every week. Until then, make sure you're staying connected with all the people and things you love the most. Bye.